is Mirrer, as I always say, the very lucky person who gets to be called President and CEO of this great institution, the New York Historical Society. And I am absolutely delighted to welcome you to this ceremonial groundbreaking for a project that is going to have a most profound and positive impact on our city for decades, even centuries to come. There are many, many special people here with us today whose advice, support, and encouragement has been crucial to this project. Please know that it is only the constraint of time that prevents us from conveying our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you. Just to my left is the trowel that was used in New York Historical's first groundbreaking in 1904. 33 years later, the space we're standing on right now, this courtyard, was purchased with the aim of constructing an annex that would expand the New York Historical Society's ability to tell history. Well, here we are, almost a century later, and that annex has never been built. I'd always believed that the reason was that we didn't have the money. But now I realize that what we actually lacked was the right idea. Well, my friends, we have the right idea now. Below our feet, in the foundation of our new building, will house the core of our extensive collections, including the priceless archives of Billie Jean King and the archives we're assembling with the American LGBTQ Museum. At ground level and above will be beautiful galleries and a pair of breathtaking sculpture gardens in which we'll present diverse artistic voices and creations. Amidst the art, we'll have several new state-of-the-art classrooms for our powerful civics programs that help young people, especially young people from communities that too often feel they have no voice, to understand the true meaning of democracy and how they can and must participate in it. And of course, this spectacular new building designed by Robert A.M. Stern Architects will be home to the American LGBTQ Museum. Getting this new building built and paid for won't be easy, but thanks to Mayor de Blasio and Speaker Johnson and the rest of the City Council and some other wonderful people, including our own trustee, Pat Klingenstein, we've raised a lot of money for the building already. There's a long way to go, but we'll get there, I'm sure of it. And now it is my great privilege to introduce our host this afternoon, Billie Jean King. Billie Jean King has rightfully been named one of the 100 most important Americans of the 20th century. That's not because she's one of the greatest tennis players who ever lived. It's because she's leveraged her success and her fame entirely and tirelessly for the purpose of fighting for fairness and justice for others. She's laser-focused on making sure that the next generation inherits a world more fair and equitable than the one she was born into. Please join me in welcoming the one and only Billie Jean King.
Thank you. And it's great to be here. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And on this site, the New York Historical Society will construct a beautiful new building, as Louise said, in which visitors, especially young people, will engage in and learn about equality and justice for all. The new building will encompass classrooms and archives, including mine, the Billie Jean King Archive, together with the first ever, this is the first ever permanent home of the American LGBTQ Museum. Woo-hoo is right. Bring it on. It's an honor to host this event and give special recognition to Mayor Bill de Blasio and Council Speaker Corey Johnson. Because without their generous support, this new building would still only be a dream. And I love history. History was my major, and I love reading and learning about history. And that is what the New York Historical Society is all about. Telling history honestly whether little or widely known, is so important because history matters. It's alive. We're so happy the new American LGBTQ plus Museum has found a home here in New York. It is our time for our American LGBTQ plus community to share our story, not only to the greater world, but also to one another. It is my honor to welcome one of the great champions for this project and for so many other initiatives in the name of justice and equity, our friend, the Mayor of New York City, the Honorable Bill de Blasio. Hi, Bill. Hello, Mayor. Thank you so much. So sweet, man. Thanks for everything.
Now, everybody, I'll be very quick. When it comes to how the modern movement for LGBTQ plus rights developed, when it comes to where the leadership occurred, where history was made, where the spirit and fight grew, there is no debate. There are many places in the world where people fought struggles, unquestionably, and many, many people who did the right thing and suffered often for it. But there's no place where it crystallized like it did here. So it is rightful that this museum will be here. The entire reconceptualization that we needed in this world began here. And the notion of a righteous rebellion, acknowledgement that something unacceptable had become the norm in society and it had to be turned over, that happened here. This museum will capture not only that revolutionary instinct and the people who made it possible, it will capture everything before and after. It will capture the decades and decades of oppression. It will capture the fact that so many people suffered just for being who they were and for loving who they loved. But it will also capture the profound changes that have occurred in the scope of history very, very quickly. This movement achieved some of the most extraordinary successes in the least time, which is a credit to everyone here and everyone who will be honored in this museum. And in doing that, opened up space for so many others, which is really what it's all about for all of us. When we're fighting for the rights of one, we are fighting for the rights of all, which is what this city is ultimately about, that sense that everyone matters and everyone is welcome. And that is the ultimate New York magic. So everyone, I have been honored to support this work. The people's resources will go into this work. That is the right thing. And what will happen here will now be seen all over the world. People will come from literally every corner of the world to learn, to be educated, to be inspired, to remember that yes, a change can come, and it did here in New York City. Thank you, and God bless you all.
My name is Richard Burns, and I'm the lucky guy who is the chair of the board of directors of our incipient American LGBTQ+ Museum. For decades, we have talked about the need for a museum to document the history of our movement for queer liberation. And so, in 2017, a group of us began to meet in Mitch Drazen's living room to become what is our founding board of directors of 28 LGBTQ activists, each of whom aspires to be a steward of our histories and our diverse communities. We've reached the moment, it's an overdue moment actually, a tipping point, where we know that we had better record this history and tear apart how it has been told so far and celebrate it before it's lost. We know that we need a museum that tells the untold stories of regular LGBTQ people. We need to talk about activist lives, the stories of people with AIDS, of intersex lives, the stories of transgender people who are being targeted by the right wing in state legislatures across this country. And we need to tell the stories of the lost lives of queer New York and queer America. We need to show the decades of struggle that we've endured, the fights against the laws that endanger us, and the push to enact the laws that should protect us, the discrimination and the suffering, but much more. We need to talk about our community's resilience, grit, and determination. The creation of this museum is a political act. LGBTQ people have always been a part of American history, and today we build an institution that will honor that legacy. Through exhibitions, public programming, collaborations with LGBTQ organizations and scholars, the museum will be a place to remember, to learn, and to sustain our movement. It will be a school for activists that will share the lives and work of queer people who have brought us to this moment today, that will acknowledge what we did well and talk about what we did wrong. We hope it will inspire rising generations of leaders for the hard work that lies ahead. None of this would be possible without the people who are here today. Mayor Bill de Blasio, Speaker Corey Johnson, who was with us right from the very start, and all the members of the City Council who had the foresight to join us. It was Kevin Jennings who inspired us to do this. Ethan Ghetto, our political guru, and all of the folks who connected us with the leadership and vision of Louise Mirrer and the New York Historical Society, New York's oldest museum. I also want to thank the individuals and foundation partners who had the courage to step up with financial support that when no one else would. That was hard, to go out for just a concept. And many of you here that I'm looking at did that, and thank you. Finally, we wouldn't be here without the more than 3,000 LGBTQ historians, leaders, and community members across New York and the country who participated in countless focus groups, interviews, and surveys. These people reflect the diversity of our communities, and the museum's plans reflect their vision. We hope to do you proud. And now, I have the pleasure of introducing André DeShields. André was the Triple Crown winner of the 2019 award season, garnering Tony, Outer Critics Circle, Drama Desk, and Grammy Awards for his universally praised role in Hadestown. Please help me welcome André DeShields.
Thank you very much. I am delighted to be here this afternoon. I'm going to take this energy to my 7 o'clock performance at the Walter Kerr Theater. And as we say, slay them. I have often visited the New York Historical Society, and it is my wont to enter it from 77th Street, because there I am greeted by the spirit of whom I consider to be the greatest orator in American history, Frederick Douglass. It may seem odd to you, but I believe Frederick Douglass is exactly the linchpin for today's event, because we are groundbreaking in the name of freedom. And that was Frederick Douglass's struggle during his entire life. Freedom. I can hear him now say, "Without struggle, there is no progress." And for him, progress meant freedom. I believe if Frederick Douglass were here today, he's here in me, but if he were literally here today, he would not object to conflating the two struggles, the human rights for African Americans and the human rights for LGBTQI community members. It may seem like they are different struggles for obvious reasons, but I want to suggest to you that the struggles are symbiotic, seemingly disparate, but mutually beneficial. Why? Because if one of us is chained, none of us are free. We can remove the shackles from a man's wrists. We can take the fetters off a woman's ankles. But until we remove the chains off of each of our minds, none of us can claim freedom. So, as a Black American in what I affectionately call these United Plantations, and as a queer Black man, and as a performing activist, perhaps I'm not the first, but I want to say for everyone who is gathered here today, the Black struggle for civil rights and the queer struggle for human rights are conflated. We struggle together. A house divided cannot stand. We say diversity, equity, and inclusion. Frederick Douglass says freedom. But they all mean the same thing, that we can look at those grand words written by Thomas Jefferson and take them literally, that each of us is endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. And with the establishment of this museum, there will now be evidence that we are achieving those inalienable rights. Our lives, our liberty, our pursuit of happiness. So thank you for allowing me those few words. It is my distinct pleasure to call to the dais Speaker of the New York City Council, Corey Johnson.
Wow. As you all know, my name is Corey Johnson, and I am the first openly gay man and the first openly HIV positive person to be Speaker of the New York City Council. It is truly a pleasure to be with you here today on this incredible day as we celebrate unbelievable progress that our community has made and look ahead to the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead of us. And I'll be honest, today definitely would have seemed impossible in 1999 when I was a 16-year-old closeted boy in Middleton, Massachusetts, at that time a town of, I think it was 4,000 people. I didn't know any gay people. I was scared of being myself, of being gay. I was suicidal, but I was lucky because my coming out story was a happy one. It was one where my mother and my father, my football team, my teammates and schoolmates accepted me. I came out 6 months after Matthew Shepard had been murdered in Wyoming. I was the first openly gay student in my school. I brought my first boyfriend to my senior prom, the first of my high school at the time. But I realized looking back that the world that I came out to had really set me up for my success. It was more than just sort of the luck of having a wonderful family. It was a world that had people that, many of whom are here today, that had done that hard work that I did not even know about at the time. I came out into a world that had people like Audre Lorde and Harvey Milk and Bayard Rustin, the world that they helped create. And New York City, our city, the city we love, played a critical role in moving the LGBTQ civil rights movement forward. And we owe it to those that came before us. I owe it to those who came before me to ensure that their legacy lives on for years to come. And that's what this American LGBTQ+ museum will do. Tell the stories of activists who put their bodies on the line and who put their lives on their line. There is an old ACT UP slogan that many of you know. Act up, stand tall, tomorrow morning at City Hall. And tomorrow morning, I'll be back at work as a city council speaker, as a proud gay man, healthy in body and in soul, able to work on behalf of the city that I love because of the generations of LGBT people who came before me. I hope they're proud of what we built for them. Thank you all very much.
I have another introduction to make. A newish friend of mine, Imara Jones, is a journalist whose work has won Emmy and Peabody Awards. She is the creator of Translash Media, which is a cross-platform journalism, storytelling, and narrative program. She is a prominent leader in the fight against the culture of hostility directed towards transgender people. She is a Soros Equality Fellow, and I'm very proud to say that she's a member of our founding board of directors. Please help me welcome Imara Jones.
First of all, I wanted to extend my thanks to members of Congress, to the speaker, to all the elected officials here, including members of the City Council and esteemed guests. It's hard to get more esteemed than Billie Jean King, but here we are. And one of the things that I think that is undeniable about this particular time is that this is a solemn time. And I had to think about, regardless of the fact that I am on the board of the LGBTQ+ Museum, that I have a media organization that's devoted to telling trans stories, about why we're actually here. Why would we actually gather at a time of plague and at a time of economic distress, at a time when we've seen that our lives can be swept away in an instant because of forces we've unleashed on the climate, when on Sunday we remembered that our lives can disappear in a cloud of fire and dust, and that our country at this particular time can appear to be a ship without a sail, lost on a lonely and raging sea. And when I thought about those things, I actually came to the conclusion that the reason why I'm here, the reason why you're here, the reason why we're all here is because we believe that in times like this, that memory can ground us. We believe that memory can tell us where we have gone and where we are going. And of course, memory forms the foundation of the stories that we tell. The stories that we tell about ourselves, about who matters, about why we're doing what we're doing. And through our lived experience in the LGBTQ plus community, we have seen, even within our community, the consequence of the erasure of memory, of not telling stories of the people who matter. You know, one story that we often like to tell ourselves is the story of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and so many of the other Black and brown, trans and gender non-conforming and non-binary people who changed the world through their consequential actions on that first night of Stonewall. Every year we walk in a parade that they started to commemorate their actions the year before that helps us lead to that particular change that we've seen. And we celebrate so many of the other wonderful things that they did in our community as role models and examples. But the story that we don't tell is that 4 years after they started that movement, they were deliberately pushed out of the movement that they had helped to start. We don't tell the story of the people who got control of that movement, attempted to erase their memory and erase their stories. And consequently, we live with that now. I know for me, growing up as a Black trans kid in Atlanta, late at night, staring up at the ceiling, wondering how I was going to tell the world who I was. Whether or not I would find acceptance, whether or not I would live, whether or not I mattered. And we know that there are too many people who are not able to be here today because they did not see themselves in the world. No one told them that they had a place. No one told them that they had a history. No one told them that they had a memory. So fundamentally, what we are doing today here is an act of historical atonement. What we are doing today is righting wrongs and correcting errors that should have never been committed in the first place. And so fundamentally, we're gathered here out of hope. We're fundamentally gathered here because we understand that an LGBTQ plus museum done in the right way is an act of restoration. We know that what we're actually putting in the ground today, the seed that we're putting in the ground today, is light and it is hope. And that's hope not only for ourselves, it's for people who have yet to be born. It's for people whose names we shall never know, who have the opportunity to thrive because today we are giving them the gift of memory. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words, and thank you so much to all of you for joining us today, all of the dignitaries and everyone else who is making this great dream come true. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts at New York Historical Society. I hope that as you join us for the reception, as the program closes, that you will take a chance to tour through the exhibition which is on view right now. This exhibition, called Safe Haven, consists of photographs of Cherry Grove. We're thrilled to have Robert David Lyon Gardner Foundation, who sponsored the exhibition with us today. Thank you so very much, Kathy, for being here with us today and for sponsoring what I know you will find to be a wonderful, moving, poignant, and happy exhibition. So we conclude the program. Join us now for a reception and really enjoy yourselves. We have a lot to be thankful for, and I am so very grateful once again, Billie Jean, for your willingness to be here with us and to help us with this wonderful ceremonial groundbreaking today. Thanks so much, and enjoy.